Below the belt.
Episode 102 of Below the Belt. Joined by the stalwarts again today, which is always fucking super exciting for me. Felonious Filth and Alex from Bristol. How are we, chaps?
Good. All good, brother.
A little bit different today. It might sound a little bit different for everybody at home because we're using Discord for the first time. I'm shitting the bed, and these two have been listening to me fuck around with all the different gadgets and stuff. So apologies for that.
Nobody cares, mate.
Nobody cares. I care. It's important to me, and and it might be important to the people at home because they might get some better sound quality out of it. I hope so. Anyway, so shitloads has gone on, but I think the main thing to start off with is we have another world champion in our midst. And Alex, you'll remember ages ago when we first started this podcast that we were like proper boastful. We had like 13 world champions and we were like the fucking kings of the boxing world. And these days we're lucky to have about 5. How do you feel about Okolie, getting our first world title in a while?
Well, it's nice. I mean, look, us in particular have kind of been around and been exposed to Lawrence Okolie from the beginning. We spoke to him down at the gym before he joined Shane McQuiggan, and we're there for him and Chamberlain, and we even saw and spoke to him on at the night Kell Brook lost to Errol Spence. So we've actually been exposed and probably perhaps have known a little bit more of the ins and outs about Okolie's journey from the beginning, and it was a nice natural step up. Like there's been blips along the way, of course there has with Okolie in terms of style. He had a couple of performances, 4 or 5 performances ago that were, left a little bit to be desired. To be fair, in terms of the spectacle, and I think even us, we're a little bit, has he got that momentum to start going? But Shane McQuiggan again showing that he has so much to offer in terms of helping these guys take the extra step when they need to. And now that cruiserweight division is wide open for him, really. That's certainly the plan that we've heard from Hearn and from others, that they think that it's a natural progression for him to try and unify the division before stepping up to heavyweight within 12 months.
Is that what you'd like to see him do, Al, is stay at cruiserweight for a little while? I
think when's he ever going to get a better opportunity to do what could be done in that division when you look at where the belts are and what the situations are? It's if he continues to develop and continues to defensively improve in terms of not just holding and letting people come in, if he's able to position himself better in those things, which certainly looked like on Saturday night, then why not? He should be going to try and do as much as he can in this division, but I think it's pretty evident that he's going to have to move up to heavy. This isn't in 2 years. This is 12 months he's got to get this done.
You made an interesting point about us kind of following his journey. When he won the European title, that was the same night as Regis Prograis against Josh Taylor, which we was also at. So we've been to a few of his fights. T, what do you think about Okolie on Saturday?
I thought he looked great. He looked quite assured. How long has he been in McQuiggan for? He wasn't with him the whole time, was he?
No, not at all.
So there's definitely been an improvement. I think, I don't know if it was Alex or you who mentioned the Boar Fest that he was in. Matty Askin was definitely one of them.
Yeah.
I think since then, and the criticism he's got since then, he's become a bit more of a sharpshooter, which we're glad for. I think, I don't know if it was the Askin or the Chamberlain fight that came first, but the last one of those 2 fights is probably a line in the sand where he thought, I've got to really to business here. And fortunately for him, cruiserweight isn't the murderer's row it was a couple of years ago with Gassiev. So, as Alex alludes to, he should get at least another 2 belts at that division before thinking about moving up, provided he can make the weight safely.
And it's a great story as well. Look, there's no getting around it. I know boxing fans are sometimes a little bit like, well, who cares, But it's a great story. He's come from a position of not a youngster, not being in the best of shape, of again finding the sport, and the sport being able to elevate him into a position in life that is very enviable. He's got all the backing in the world behind with Sky and Matchroom. You look at, he'll be all over everything to do with Sky now. He's got some personality about him, and he's got everything everything is working for him now. And hopefully, you'd like to see him develop, and you'd like to see him and take those chances, because again, a young let's hope he continues to be entertaining, but a young British guy with plenty of personality has won a world title. That's good news in anyone's book, regardless of whether the opponent was quite as much as we expected. He got the job done, and he's definitely stepped up a level, and he did the job. What more can you ask for? It's good news. It's good news for the sport. It's good news for this country, the sport in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's almost like we needed another world champion. Like, it feels like we haven't crowned a new world champion.
Well, we've had some, as in terms of British boxing, we've had a bad week. Josh Warrington, Josh Kelly, Dillian Whyte, which obviously is coming back up now, but it's not been ideal, has it?
No. What did you think about Okolie's performance in the fight itself?
I think the game plan was just working for him all day long, just right down the pipe. Seemed tailor-made for him. Is it Glavatsky or Glavatsky? What are we saying here?
It's Glavatsky. I've been calling him Glavatsky because I'm having this terrible run at the minute of pronouncing names. I called Arsene Wenger Wenger, and then a day later called Glavatsky. But that wasn't intentional. But yeah, Glavatsky, I think it is.
So, it's a good name to have in the CV, but I think he fought him at a good time. It's probably a little bit on the slide. So, it's a good win. It's a very good performance from Okolie, as I alluded to earlier on, again with Shane McGuigan. It's a good match, gives him a very good and straightforward game plan. And he followed it to a T, and he just couldn't miss that shot. And, ended up knocking out Glavatsky.
I thought it was a great performance, Al. I love the way he was throwing his right hand to the body. He seemed to be targeting the body from really, really early. And perhaps I don't know because you wouldn't watch the Breedis fight and think Glavatsky is weak to the body, would you? You think, maybe he's a bit chinny, maybe the way he doesn't, perhaps the chin's perhaps not there anymore, but you wouldn't think he's weak to the body. Why do you think they went for the body so early? Do you think maybe the COVID was a part of it? Anything like that?
Yeah, maybe, but I also think that the way that he was moving around, Glavatsky. Are we saying Glavatsky?
Yeah, let's go with it.
It's very low. He keeps his feet relatively steady, and it's a lot of movement from the hip. Leaning down and moving in and out, and you can only do that for so long with someone with such long levers like Okolie, because at some point you have to come back up to take your steps, and you're going to get found with that straight left. And I just thought he did it really well. Again, I've always liked Shane McGuigan as a trainer. I think he's very good at being able to find a very relatively simple game plan for people to execute step by step. And if that particular step isn't working, okay, we're going to try this. Okay, we're going to try this. And I saw it a lot with George Groves, where you saw sometimes George would get lost in performances, sometimes of not 100% knowing what to do or what to stick with doing. And Shane McGuigan, you definitely saw the difference when he came in with Groves of game plans, and that's exactly what someone like Okolie needs. And I think that's probably why. I think they would have seen that as something that they are relatively easily able to target, and it worked.
Yeah, it did work, and it was a cracking finish. And do you know what? I fucked up. I fucked up, mate, because I was watching it on the laptop, and I'm usually below the belt tweeting and all the rest of it, and the round was just the round had just started, and I thought, I'll just quickly put a score in, and then I've just seen it's over. It's over. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake! Why did I look at my phone? Why did I do that? But a brilliant stoppage, wasn't it, T?
No, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. I actually fell asleep, not because the fight was boring, but I was very, very tired. So I watched it again properly today. No, it was dominant, very good finish. And I just don't think it could have really asked so much more. Inactivity has been a plague on the sport for the last 12 to 18 months. And I think Okolie still looked sharp. I mean, how long has he been out for? It must be at least a year. I don't think he's fought in that time. So he still looked sharp, still looked like, he knew the job at hand. And there's a good chance for him to unify. Him and Josh Taylor could have multiple belts by the end of this year. And that would just be lovely to see.
Yeah, he boxed in December, Okolie, but it was
he did.
It was that guy that looked far too small for him. I don't know if you remember. And he hit him with a temple shot, and he got the Bambi legs like straight away. Al, just thinking about going forward, there's Junior Makabu, who's got the WBC belt. You've got Maris Breedis, who's got the IBF title. And I think it's this chap here at number 6 who's got the WBA belt. Yeah, it is. It's a guy called Arsen Goulamirian, and he's got the WBA belt. Who would you fancy next for Okolie?
I think a lot timing wise, in terms of crowds starting to come back towards the middle of this year and towards the end of this year. You've already seen from. I mean, if you go anywhere near a Sky Sports website or channel at the minute, he is everywhere. This is someone. He's got the link with Joshua, obviously with Joshua Fury coming up. There's very. I think they'd like to be able to get him another belt on the undercard of Joshua Fury, and maybe even then something towards the end of the year where he's headlining his own show. So they could even go after the other less problematic fighters other than Makubu to effectively end the year with him with 3 belts. I've got that plan. Whether he can do it or not, will remain to be seen. But I think that's what they'll aim to do. They're desperately short of pay-per-view headlining kind of stars, and Okolie has the potential to be, because of his link with Joshua. That's very easy to push, and again, he's a young, good-looking, personable dude who has a world title now, who knocks people out. So I think that's the way they'll go. I think they'll try and avoid Makubu if they can.
Yeah.
But then people know Makubu from Bellew, and that might be something they can sell as well. I don't think they'll be too fast, but I think that they could easily get away with the lesser known names because of what potentially else is coming up this year.
I was about to ask you, Al, actually, if he unifies on a Joshua undercard, is he then automatically a box office fighter?
I mean, I think we've seen it. We've seen the way it goes before. I think they'd say it's box office now. If he's got a world title and he goes for another title, regardless of who it's about, I think they could easily, with everything else that's been going on, I don't see any. If they came out, next week saying, look, greatest Okolie in June pay-per-view, I don't think they'd have any issue selling that in terms of how they determine what a pay-per-view fight is now.
Yeah.
What
do you
think? Would I
T?
pay for that on its own? No, but
no. It's all about the undercard as well, I guess, isn't it? What do you think, T? Sorry,
I'm not sure he's got the personality to be pay-per-view yet. Chisora, Dillian White, they're quite gregarious, quite chatty. They've got Chisora's got loads of fans as well. I'm not sure Okolie has that. What Okolie does have is the story and the journey, working in McDonald's, being obese as a child, and he's on TV the other night. His mum welcomed him home. That was on the news. That built up his story a little bit. Yeah. I think he can be pay-per-view. And I would say the first fight on the pay-per-view for him would be Breedis. That's probably the one to avoid for me. I think Breedis is just the best cruiserweight by an absolute mile. Makabu is about 5'10", 5'11". I think Okolie will deal with him fairly easily. But Breedis has got to be the one to leave to last You could even.
I'm not sure. I think Breedis. I don't know. I think
he's ready to go, Al.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's something about Breedis' style, but I think would suit Okolie. Don't know. I just think
it'd be the biggest win.
Yeah. I think just Makubu might be too much of a wild card.
I'm just looking. I'm just looking at like there was no mandatory situation for Okolie right now. The only person that stands out in the WBO rankings is Murat Gassiev, but I think he's going to heavy, so I don't even know why he's still there. He's still in the. That is weird that he's still in the rankings. Richard Riekpore is number 13, so maybe he might get a voluntary and maybe fight him. But actually, no.
I'd be amazed. I'd be amazed if Okolie fought him.
Yeah, I think Riekpore is from Brixton. I think he's from the Miguel's gym. I might be wrong.
Is there any point? Is there any point? Okolie doing voluntaries if there is the opportunity to go and fight for other belts at the same time. I mean, what's the point? I don't really see what the point is. He's got the clock is now ticking before he's going to have to move to heavyweight. Hearn has said that himself. So why fuck about?
He's 6'5". He's fucking massive at cruiserweight. Like, he's absolutely massive. And Breedis is. I get why T say maybe leave that till last because Breedis is an elite fighter. Like, he's the best cruiserweight in the world. Like, he gave Usyk probably the hardest fight of his career, and he's just won the WBSS. He got to the semi-finals the first time, unlucky not to get to the final, and then the second time wins it and beats Dorticos. Maybe Okolie fights Dorticos. Maybe Okolie.
I'd love that.
You'd have a bit of Dorticos tea,
mate. The good thing is that if he fought Dorticos or Breedis, said probably likely come over here, and I'd 100% be at that fight provided lockdown is eased by then. Riekpore could be a future great at that division, but Okolie doesn't make any sense. Okolie fighting him at all.
Yeah, no, you're right. I was thinking, maybe if he fancies a quick voluntary, but I think you're right. Do you know what, Al? I was watching. It was a couple of weeks ago, and they were building up the Okolie fight on TV, and they showed the fight when he won the Commonwealth title, and we was there. It was when we was at York Hall, and it's really, really weird, but for whatever reason, it was the Luke Watkins fight, but for whatever reason, that advert made me miss going to boxing with you two.
It's been a long time, man. And the good thing about the good thing about going to boxing is that you do get to you forget. I think watching it on TV, you do forget of all of the little bits. You forget that these are guys that I don't know, with no crowd there. It's just boxers are different breeds of people, right?
Mm.
And when there is no crowd there, there's definitely a difference between. I don't know how to describe it, but there's definitely a difference between on what you feel about a fighter.
Yeah,
and going to watch them live, you do feel more connected with those fighters, and you want them. I want them to win more. Watching Okolie on TV was like, okay, well, I hope he does it. That'd be nice, and it's British, and I don't usually go in for that sort of thing, but it'd be it's a good story. But if I was there, I'd have been like, fucking yes! I'd have been wanting to buy a T-shirt afterwards.
The sauce across your chest.
Yeah, exactly. And I miss that. I miss being invested. And we're very lucky. We've got to go. With some links that we've got. We've had some great tickets and sometimes last minute stuff where we've got to be able to go up. I've got to. I got to go up last minute. For Cal Yafai's first defense, with Scott, friend of the show, Scott, who works for Matchroom, and those types of things. Like, oh yeah, I've got to spare a ticket. How do you want to come up? Yeah, fuck it, get in the car, drove up, have and I'm there like, Cal Yafai's just made a standard defense against some nobody, and I'm there like, row 6, fucking arms out, give it some, yes, I can't wait.
Yeah,
so, but
that's
that
brilliant.
doesn't happen when you're sitting watching at home. So hopefully it won't be long. You're looking at you already see, obviously in America, they've had that shows. I obviously watched Ortiz Hooker just now again, and Canelo's going to have lots of fans and crowd. It's a matter of time, until we're all going to be able to go again to stuff.
Yeah. I asked this of Paul Zanon and Luke the other week, T, but I'm going to ask you, because it's interesting what Al says about like no crowd being there and all of that. Do you think like no crowd and stuff? Do you think that's perhaps lent itself to like a lot of the upsets that we over the last year or so?
I think the most telling one that Paul and Luke alluded to was the Warrington one, because he's probably the biggest home fighter at top level in the country. The old Leeds fans and Kaiser Chiefs and all that going on. So that's probably one example where maybe you've got 95% in you, but the other 5% as a fan to just push you over the edge to give their all. So yeah, I think it definitely does play a part. It's one of those things where it's unprecedented. I doubt we'll see it again in our lifetimes where our favorite boxers are fighting in empty stadiums. I mean, it's the sort of thing you see in a film. Can you imagine 5 years ago saying Canelo fights in an empty stadium?
Yeah.
You know what, right? It's none of us know, because none of us have done it.
No.
Despite my best efforts to be a boxer. I've boxed in front of 7 people.
You're still a champ to me, mate.
Thanks, pal. But one thing I can imagine it being very difficult for fighters is when the tempo of a fight changes, when a direction of a fight changes, when a momentum of a fight changes, you must feel it so much more when there's no crowds there. There's nothing to suddenly distract you or to give you a slight, you get a bit of a pop from the crowd when you land something, or even if they think you land something or they want you to land something, that reaction isn't there, and you have to have so much inner bottle to be able to then change the tempo of a fight that is there for all to see, and for you to feel even more so when there's no crowd there. Nothing to distract you whatsoever, or to egg you on, or to get you going in a different direction. It must be so hard, and I think that lend itself to some of the upsets that we've had. Could Warrington still have lost? Of course he could, but would there have been a change of momentum of coming out in the 5th, 6th, 7th round when you've got 30,000 people fucking screaming for you to get going? Of course, that's going to make a difference. So, these fighters are experiencing upsets in a time, as T says, that is completely unprecedented, and I hope they're not judged or we lose faith too much in people perhaps who have had some of these upsets, because I think they're dealing with double the amount of pressure perhaps than they would have before.
Yeah, absolutely. T, the gremlin in me, he's that little gremlin. He lives in my brain, and he tells me bad things when he's not supposed to tell me bad things. But when we started talking about Josh Warrington, I was thinking about, what if he loses again and he can't afford the Kaiser Chiefs anymore and he's got to get a tribute band?
What, the Kaiser Chiefs?
Yeah.
The Kaiser chumps.
Yeah. Kaiser Sergeants.
Drinking bottles of Kaiser.
The Kaiser Chiefs. I don't know why that came into my head, but it did. I just thought, what if your
head usually comes up with things far more problematic than that. So let's just be thankful that it was
exactly.
It was pretty insane.
I'm thinking he loses again, he ends up with Mick Hennessy, and they've got to book the Kaiser Chiefs instead. But that's as far as it got today.
Do you know what? Talking about that whole momentum thing and people fighting in front of empty stadiums and upsets and stuff like. I've just had YouTube on in the background on the telly, and it's just like gone through its own playlist now, and it's on like the 10 biggest upsets in boxing. Like it's gone through like Macronelli and Pacquiao, De La Hoya, and there's like an Eggington fight in there. But now there's Hatton Costas you on at the minute, and that's a prime example of there are fighters that. The crowd and the environment and the atmosphere is 40, 50, 60% of their career sometimes. So yeah, it's a big deal, and let's hope we're coming towards the end of it.
Speaking of Costas you, he was at the Beterbiev fight, wasn't he?
Mm.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Fucking love the Russian national anthem. It's just so immense. I just love it so much.
You're a bit of a fucking. You love national anthems, didn't you? T. You're like proper.
I love a good one.
Right.
No, I'm not got a spreadsheet. It's up here, mate. It's up here. But
right. What's your favorite?
Oh God. Don't let Bardi hear me say, but Italy's up there. Italy, Russia, France. Chile's the outsider. Chile's anthem is amazing.
I love Chilean.
Chilean boxer.
Great.
Just think of Zamorano in the '98 World Cup, screaming his lungs out.
Yes.
Who was it that fought? And these some of those anthems are so good when they come with these mental Eastern European entrances. Who was it that fought Klitschko? God, it must have been 6 or 7 years ago now. And whoever's the country's president came up with him, but he came out and it was like kids with massive, great big forehammers hammering anvils.
I want to say Chagayev.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I remember that and just thinking, yeah, this is next level shit. This is forget all your pyrotechnics and production value stuff. Give me kids with fake hammers hitting anvils. That's what I want.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, that is good. No, I think it was Ruslan Chagayev, and he would always the president always used to rock up with him, didn't he? Think of the pressure, and then he gets stopped by Lucas fucking Brown, and you never see him again. You never see the guy again. Is he still alive?
He's probably in that crowd.
Yeah, probably, or he's in concrete somewhere. Fuck no. I don't know. Let's quickly talk about Beterbiev T. Why you mentioned it. What do you? I thought, I don't know about you. He looked like there's been a little bit of slippage there. T.
He's been very inactive. Very inactive. And we're just so accustomed to him getting people out of there. Like, to be fair, I'm not going to say I was focused on every minute of every round. I just thought, God, it's round 7 and the guy's still here. What's going on? Because I think he knocked him down fairly early on.
Yes.
I thought, we're just going to finish him, man. The guy was just durable. Is there signs of slippage? It wouldn't be surprising. He's about, 36 years old. He's had about 14, 15 professional fights.
Mm.
You know, I think he's in a situation now where he needs that Bivol fight sooner rather than later.
We're going to talk about Bivol towards the end. Did you watch Beterbiev? How?
No, I haven't watched it. But again, I think we're going to see these drop-offs quicker from people, and in the environment that we're in at the minute. I think, like with inactivity, and it's not just inactivity in the ring; it's inactivity and disruption to lives and to training routines and to and just to general patterns of how people prepare for fights. Everything around that is going to have been disturbed, and the extra stresses of making sure you're not catching it and training in certain ways and all the rest of it, not being overtrained and finding that balance. So I think we're going to find drop-offs in fighters, happening probably more dramatically for people who are already getting towards that point in their career.
Mm.
And that's why you've got to kind of commend Canelo for keeping busy, because if he's just having camps, fights, that's better. When you're like inactive and you're left to your own devices and you're not, you're not as focused as you could be, then that's what can happen. And I think it's important I presume you're going to speak about Eubank Jr. later on as well, Cal, but he's not fought in a while. He's got a fight in May. Hopefully he gets at least another fight before the year's out. Everyone's I think people realise that COVID is what it is, and they've got to get active, got to get in the ring and get it done. Get them.
But also, I think he does deserve credit, but also Canelo's in a position where he can do that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He ain't got to worry about selling tickets. He's the draw. He's the straw. Like, if he says to the zone, I'm fighting on this date, they've got to adapt to him. But Al, considering you didn't watch Beterbiev, I still want you to tell me with authority if Canelo smashes him to bits.
Yeah, I think Canelo might be God. So I think I'm an atheist. I don't believe in in that type of stuff, but I think he might be the reason we're all here. So I think I don't have any worries about that.
Do you believe that, T? Do you believe the original man was a ginger Mexican?
Absolutely, mate. He's like a throwback, isn't he? maybe that's why he looks the way he does. He's a complete throwback. He just seems like he'll never lose, and you don't get that many fight. You don't get many fighters like that in generations. You just cannot see them losing. I mean, Mike Tyson had that for other reasons, and he was in his pomp, but I just don't see Canelo losing another fight, and it just makes the Mayweather win look all the better.
It's It's interesting what he said the other day about going back to light heavyweight. I know I said there about him fighting Beterbiev at some point, but I don't think he's really interested in going back to light heavyweight. He said the only people that want me to fight at light heavyweight are people that want to see me lose. Which was an interesting kind of comment. Some might argue that they want to see him challenged instead of losing, but I think it's valid. The guy started at fucking welterweight, and you now want him to fight, light heavies. I think that's a little bit a bit much, really. But yeah, it was interesting to see Beterbiev. T, you woke me up on Sunday morning and said, "Watch Vergil Ortiz. Watch it right now." You was excited, weren't you?
Yeah, it was a very good fight. I mean, the only reason I know Morris Hooker is because of the fight of Flanagan. So it's interesting to see. I mean, I'm surprised that they matched Hooker with him because he lost to Ramirez, but I didn't think he's at a point where they're feeding him to prospects like that. But it was a very good fight. I love Ortiz's style. It's very fan friendly. I don't think he'll retire unbeaten, but
no.
But no, it was very, very, very fun to watch. And Hooker's interview after the fight where he says, "Fuck y'all," then walks out. They're booing him. I love that shit. I love that shit so much. And because of that, Hooker was my new hero.
Did you see that, Al? Did you see that, Al?
Yeah, I immediately thought of T when I saw it as well.
It's proper bit of him in it. Proper bit of him.
Yeah.
Crotch chops to the crowd. Yeah, fuck you, suck it. Yeah, no. But in all seriousness, crowds that boo losing fighters, like that's just like proper dickhead behavior. Like they get in the ring and they've done, I've said it before. They do the thing that we can't or won't do, and they've put their bollocks out there, and he's just lost. He lost on an injury. He broke his hand. He landed a shot, but he was getting smashed up, wasn't he? And they fucking they boo him and give him a load of shit. It's like, what is your fucking problem? But what did you think of Ortiz, Al?
Strong, steady, just looks like the type that will just continue to grow. He's interesting to watch because you know what he's going to do. It's quite clear in terms of his style and his approach to stuff. But I love those fighters where you can pretty much predict about how they're going to come into every fight, and it's a question of stopping them rather than how are they going to approach this. He looks that type that people are going to have to figure him out and going to have to make their own plans against him in particular, because I just think he's very, very, very good at what he does. I don't think you'll see too much of a style change, as he develops. I don't think that's going to happen. I just think he's very good at what he does. Hooker is, there's a 10-year age gap, so that's part of it, and to make him look as make the job look as easy as he did, I thought was very quite impressive, really. I know Hooker's nothing particularly out there, but at 22 there's steps to take, and he took it in quite standard fashion, really.
I think that's the thing to remember, isn't it? His age, because I watched him, and then you're right what you say about Hooker. There's a 10-year age gap, and also Hooker's coming up from junior welter. He's probably naturally a junior welter and wasn't really a puncher there. And then you're going up to welterweight against a pretty big, solid welterweight. But I said to you, T, he boxes like a guy that thinks he punches harder than he does. Like he doesn't seem like he's got tons of power. Or do you think I've got that wrong? Do you think he might grow into it and get more power?
Maybe, but sometimes when fighters move up a level, they can't hurt people as easily as they can I mean, Mo Hooker isn't a welterweight, but maybe he's wily enough to not take the shots full on. Then maybe he parries them and he moves away, so they don't have the impact. Where maybe Ortiz is accustomed to people walking onto his shots, where there's more impact. But he's got a lot of growing to do. He wanted to fight Crawford next, which would be suicide. But I just think he's probably a rich man's Conor Benn, I'd say. The way that he fights, it reminds me of Conor Benn in that, he loves to scrap. There's a man getting hit to land 2 or 3 of his own. And yeah, I think he'll definitely be entertaining, but I think he'll lose before long.
Yeah, I agree with you. Our friend Paul Zanon, who's been doing the pod a lot recently, he raves about him and he loves him. I'm not sure about Ortiz. I think he might get found out quite quickly. To be honest with you,
really, I don't know. I don't think so.
You're a fan? You're a fan now?
Yeah, I really like him. I think again, it's hard to say, especially we're at the age. But I don't know. There's something about him that I think he seems like he's got his head screwed on. I think he'll get better and better.
Okay. What did you think about What did you think about Crawford's comments? Because Crawford was there. I think Spence was there as well. Crawford said afterwards that he's not going to fight Spence. He doesn't think it's going to happen. He said he's not going to fight him, but he also said he's not going to fight Ortiz either because he doesn't think Ortiz is ready. What's Terence Crawford playing at?
I think it's just universal disappointment in Crawford now. I think after Spence won his fight, he talked up Pacquiao and not Crawford. And Crawford said that's probably all he needs to know right there, that he's not even talking about me. So maybe that's Crawford's frustration still there, that everyone's having a go at him for not fighting Spence, but Spence doesn't talk him up either, so Spence isn't playing his part in the bargain. I think Crawford needs that defining fight sooner rather than later. Pacquiao is obviously the cash cow in that division, and they're both keen to fight him, but they've really got to fight each other, and it's just disappointing. Just kind of deflated everything because Crawford is a very, very, very popular fighter. It might not sell millions of tickets like Canelo, but within the boxing community, he's very, very much loved, and it's just disappointing that he's not fighting the one person who we feel can really test him. Because anyone else at 147, I don't think they're really going to give him a tough time.
Yeah. What do you think about Crawford now and the whole thing that's going on with his career? He's 33 years old. He's not really. What do you think? He's not really doing much.
I don't get it. Like T says, it's just a shame. You'd think in the times that we're in at the minute that it should show people that you've got to take some of these opportunities whilst they're there. And I don't really see the I don't really get the arguments behind not wanting to. I don't know. It's disappointing, and it doesn't shine boxing in the best of lights, really. I know it's not the sport's fault. There's decisions to be made by individuals, but it's silly, really. It's just a throwback and a highlight as to sometimes what we get, or what we all get so frustrated about with this sport at times.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. Let's move on to this weekend. Alexander Povetkin versus Dillian Whyte 2 in Gibraltar. I don't know if it's for some WBC ball or anything like that. I really have no idea. T, you looking forward to it, or is it a bit meh?
I'm a bit meh. Obviously it's intriguing what the rematch will bring, what shape Dillian Whyte will be in. It's not a pay-per-view fight, in my opinion. But if there was no lockdown and the fight was over here, I'd probably be tempted to attend for maybe something on the undercard. But it's just, it's a shame for Dillian Whyte, really, because he would have been more in the picture if he'd have won the first fight. I suspect he's going to bore his way to victory in this rematch. I don't think he's going to want to trade with him again, even though he's shown that he can hurt Povetkin and knock him down. I think he'll just want to win the fight like Joshua did with Ruiz in the rematch. I think he'll just give a similar game plan to that.
Yeah. How you feeling about this fight, Al? Are you excited about it?
I'm quite looking forward to it. I think Povetkin's only got one way, really of winning, and that's doing what he did last time. So I think that is going to have to make White, come out and try and beat him at his own game at some point. It might only be in pockets of moments, but I'm intrigued. And this is it for Dillian Whyte. I mean, if he loses this, then really, what there's no time really to do anything else in terms of what he's waited and had so much patience to try and achieve, and that will go. And so any type of jeopardy like that on a fight makes it more interesting, So, and it'd be good, and we should want Dillian Whyte to win because it keeps something else of intrigue in the division. We know what's going to take over for the rest of this year, and arguably even some of next, depending on what happens. So he's got to keep himself in the mix, and I think I'm not sure I agree, but I think he might bore him in. I think he might throw caution to the wind and be like, well, this is it, so what's the point in risking getting to, and we know that he tends to gas a little bit towards the latter rounds, so maybe he'll go, do you know what, I know that I can get rid of him, so let's try and get it done early, and if the same happens again, then all right. I don't know, and I genuinely don't know which way he'll go. If it's, we know he's not. He's his own man, makes his own decisions very much in those types of things. I can see if there's an opportunity to trade and he feels comfortable and he feels confident. I don't think it'll really matter what's being said to him. I think he'll just go for it.
Yeah. I've just seen it's for the WBC interim title, which Povetkin obviously won from White last time around. So it's a rematch for that. Okay, let's. One thing that was interesting to me is that the British title is being defended in Gibraltar. Is Gibraltar like part of the Commonwealth or part of the Empire or whatever the fucking term is?
Yeah,
so
it's it's part of it's Britain.
Thank you. That's what I needed to know. Thank you for that. You're better at politics than me and geography.
Clearly.
No, it was just interesting to me that the British title was being defended abroad. Okay. Give us some predictions then. Give us some predictions. T, you go first.
Dillian Whyte points.
Ow.
I think he knocks him out. I think he knocks him out in 4 rounds.
Oh,
that'd be a statement. That'd be a real statement.
I think it has to be. I think it has to be a statement. I genuinely believe that. I think that Dillian Whyte's made some money, perhaps not as much as he wanted to, but I think if he's going to be able to be then put in, bigged up and pushed into a fight with Wilder, for example, I think he's got to make a statement. And he's got to make a statement against a 37-year-old. He's older than that, actually, isn't he? So
41, 42.
Yeah, a 41-year-old guy where he can look good doing it. I think he has to, and I'd like to see him do it. I'd like to see him take that approach. I mean,
I agree with you, Al, in the sense that I think he has to. I think if he labours to a points win over a 41-year-old COVID survivor, Alexander Povetkin, then it's not really a good look. Really, he has to make a statement. He has to get Povetkin out of there. It can't be back and forth. I think it has to be dominance. I think he's got to dominate him and stop him. Inside the distance. I don't think it can be a struggle because otherwise, like you said, where does he go? And if he loses the fight, there's nowhere for him to go. But I think it's obviously everyone's looking forward to the possibility of Fury Joshua. As much as Eddie likes to talk it up like it's a done deal, I don't think it is. There isn't a location, there isn't a date, so it's not done. But I think everybody's obviously
to their credit, though. To be not to their credit, but to be fair, I don't think they've said. I think they've said that look, the term in terms of terms are signed. There's a 28-day period now to get stuff done, and he's it's usually, they want to get the terms done so that they can then go to the places that have obviously pitched for this fight and say, okay, well, the terms are done now. Now we can listen to your pitches and go from there. I think it'll be fine. I do think it'll be fine. I just, I trust, Matchroom have their faults, but getting stuff over the line, particularly for their biggest clients, most of the time, is not usually one of them.
When you think of Heather now, do you think of like Eddie Hearn promoting a Busted concert? Is that like your idea of what?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
We know you love.
Stick a couple of Bombay Bad Boy pot noodles in there, and I'm done. Yeah.
Sorry, I just couldn't help myself.
I trust Eddie Hearn when it comes to these big events. I do.
Yeah, I think he'll get it done. I'm not saying he won't get it done. I think he will get it done. I think he may have spoken a little bit too early because we don't have a site yet. We don't have a date. But
yeah, and let's have it right. If Frank and some of the others have had numerous criticisms in the past of announcing a fight and then there not being a venue or a date and everyone being like, okay, well let's wait and see. So you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Fuck T, do you remember when Frank Warren announced Chisora Wilder and it wasn't even signed or nothing at all? Do you remember that one?
Oh god, it's just such a long list of gaffes from him, man. And I don't want to say anything else in case we get sued. Something there.
Yeah,
keep quiet.
I swear there was a Ricky Burns one as well. But I might be wrong. But I remember Wilder Chisora being announced, the fucking poster and everything, and Wilder was like, "No, we haven't signed." No, like what are you talking about? You can't sue us for that. That fucking happened. Okay. I haven't done a prediction. I think White's going to win. I think White's probably going to stop him round 8, round 9, something like that. Okay. Let's talk about the Chisora Parker card that's been announced for May the 1st. Al, you love talking about pay-per-view. What do you think about? Do you think this is a pay-per-view card, if not fight?
I don't know how many more times we can talk about it, though. I mean, what is a pay-per-view card now? The posts, the goal gets moved so much now because of whether it's a card, whether it's 2 or 3 fights, whether there's enough belts, whether it's COVID times, or whether you have to have a pay-per-view, otherwise you won't get this fight, and we want to see it, so it's worth paying. So I don't know. I saw the card and was like, I put it in the group, and I was like, right, that's that's a nice card. Then I was like, oh shit, it's pay-per-view. Okay. So I'm bored of talking about the pay-per-view stuff. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Just there's the argument's gone. The argument is lost. Because people buy it and numbers get done, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So the card itself, if that's a card I want to watch. Do I want to pay for it? Not really, but I'll find ways of not having to. So
you've taken my question away for T, because that was T last time we spoke about pay-per-view. We were talking about the fight, and T just blurted out, "I'm not buying it."
Yeah. The argument of it's money coming out of boxers' pockets and stuff. Well, that's make your own decision on that. But look. So I mean, who's on there? So we've got Chisora Parker. Chisora's good fun. You'll be entertained if nothing else, right? We're all big Eubank fans, so that's a plus. And again, brings the noise, brings the time. We get to hear listen. We get to hear Still Dre. That I'll be excited for that. Mm-hmm. And then run me through some of the other fights.
Yeah, I'll talk you through. Yeah, so its main event is Derek Chisora against Joseph Parker. Then you've got Dimitri Bivol against Craig Richards.
Oh, of course.
That's mad. How the fuck did that happen?
That's been getting mooted for a little while that Craig Richards was going to get a shot against Bivol. I don't know why, but it just seems to be the thing now where when they win a British title, they automatically start talking about world titles. And Craig Richards did it. It happened again on a on a Matchroom show the other week. I can't remember who it was that said, "Yeah, I won a world title now." It just seems to be like the automatic leap. Okay, I've won the British title. They don't really think about defending it outright. It's just, let's just go and fight for a world title. So yeah, Bivol against Craig Richards, Katie Taylor against Natasha Jonas, which I think Taylor's probably going to stop her, but I think it'll be fun. And then you've got Chris Eubank against Marcus Morrison. So Chris Eubank Jr. hasn't boxed since 2019, since December of 2019. So overall T, that's a pretty decent show, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not bad at all. The Eubank fight is a bit of a mismatch. The last Eubank fight was against Korobov, no?
Yes.
So that's not even a full fight. It's like a round and a half. So he hasn't been terribly active, but he's someone who, lives and breathes the sport, keeps himself in good shape. So he should be fine. It's an intriguing enough card with Taylor v. Jonas and Eubank Jr. Coming out of hibernation. Is it pay-per-view? Well, as Alex says, the definition and the paradigms for that has long since changed. So it's not worth me blowing that 2005 trumpet anymore for what should and shouldn't be pay-per-view. It's mental that Chisora heads a card that, having lost 9 fights, as you said earlier on, Cal. It's insane, but people want to see him. So what can we do?
Yeah, it's mental. And you just have to credit him, don't you, Al? You just have to credit Chisora to continue to rebuild himself. He has now got 10 losses and he's headlining a pay-per-view. Pay-per-view.
Well, it was after the White fights, after the first Dillian White fight, this kind of whole War Chisora thing kind of got rebranded and done. And again, it's exposed to a particular market, where it's easy to follow. The table flipping and all the rest of it just adds to that. And in a time where, again, because of those people that have disappeared, Froch, Brook, Callum Smith being inactive and not really moving on to that big pay-per-view star that they had, Joshua losing, it's all of these guys and Groves, and people like that have started to fade away. So there's a vacuum there that needed to be filled. And it didn't necessarily need to be filled with elite level performances who are, unbeaten and smashing people over all the time, because that wasn't there. So that vacuum has been filled in part at times by people like Derek Chisora, Dave Allen, of being able to fill those vacuums of people being just interested to see, because there are other parts to it other than, the 12 rounds or, 8 to 12 rounds that we see actually in the ring,
And I think it lends itself to something you've spoken about before, T, is about fighters with the ability to sell themselves outside of like the traditional way. And Al makes a good point there about Dave Allen. He just comes across like a nice, funny bloke. You've got Derek Chisora flipping tables over and talking about laxatives. And whereas, the top fighters, they're talking about training and having wars and all that sort of stuff. It's true, isn't it, T?
Yeah, no, it's 100% true. The whole intrigue around fighters, it's not enough to, you get people like Scott Quigg who are dedicated and live and breathe the sport, but who cares about miles on the road and not leaving anything in the gym? They don't want them to hear those cliches anymore. And I think there's probably just going to be a niche of Bundini Browns in and around boxing in the next few years, because it just seems to be the way. Even when you got Jake Paul doing all these promos, some of which are really offensive, but I have to credit the format in which he's doing it, because it just kind of gets people interested. He'll just do the stuff we're saying about McGregor was awful, but there's nothing stopping boxers over here trying to do the same thing. With Okolie, what brings back to Okolie a little bit is that if he does fight Riek Poore, that could boost them both up in terms of being box office, because there's 2 UK fighters from London, and maybe who knows, maybe that could be a way of having that happen, have a bit of a backstory, and having a heel in the face. I think that's the way boxing's going to go. It's inevitable.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. What do you think? What do you think about like Al, the managers? You're a wrestling fan. You're a massive wrestling fan, kind of like me, really. What do you think about kind of like the roles of like Sam Jones and the rest these days?
a good question. I think it adds. Look, the product of boxing has changed. You know, one thing that has happened with Matchroom and Sky in particular, obviously in this country, is that production level has gone up a notch, and selling of boxing as a brand has gone up. So whenever you get that, then it relies on personalities, because it doesn't necessarily rely on the ins and outs of the sport anymore and the hardcore of the sport. It relies on bringing in that casual market, for want of a better word. And you could say it relies more heavy on that now than at any other time. And so when you've got people like Sam Jones, who is easy to listen to, and even people like David Higgins, and people like that, who then can come into scenarios where perhaps they've not been seen or heard of, or people know much about them, but they can make a fuss, then it adds to it. And as a fighter, it will help. You know, Joe Joyce, for example, is not the most. I mean, I still don't know whether he's trolling us all the time or not, but you know, I don't know whether he's an actual comedy genius or whether he is, the real life David Brent. But you've got Sam Jones there to market that for you. And I think most boxers, if you've got that, then you don't want them to have to rely on marketing themselves. Ideally, if you can get someone that does half of it for you, then it's great. I like it. I don't have any issue with it. I think as long as it doesn't kind of cross over into WWE type stuff, then why not?
Yeah, I like it. I think, like I've said before, Sam Jones was winding me up. Like, he was fucking me off just watching some of the stuff on Instagram and BT.
But that's the point.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've been watching boxing a long time, and I don't really watch Build Up or IFL or whatever. I don't watch Boxing Social. I don't watch any of it because I just find it all a bit boring. Listening to people saying, "Oh, you're doing me running. I'm coming for a tear up." I just want to watch the fights. Like, it's not interesting to me. But whenever I've seen someone like a Sam Jones or Jake Paul, they fucking wind me up. But that's good. That's what you want. You want them to
there's a difference.
Up.
There's a difference between look, Jake Paul and YouTube stuff. I think is a whole nother story. I wouldn't watch. I have no interest in any of that element of it. Like KSI and those fights and stuff. It made that's like telling me that there's a fight on down the local social club between two guys who have never really done it before. It might be fun to watch, but it's no. I genuinely don't see the difference in it because it's not marketed at people like us. That's not who it's for. So there's a big difference between those types of things. What Sam Jones is doing is trying to sell his product, which is his fighters, and to make it that there's more intrigue around it, so that next time when the fight isn't quite as big or someone needs a fight, they go, "Do you know what? We can put him on the undercard because he'll put a few bums on seats or a few comments or likes or interactions on social media."
Yeah, he's Bobby the Brain Heenan. He's the genius. He's Jim Cornette. He's Angel Garcia. He's Angel Garcia. He's Drew Bandini Brown. He's all of them. And there's been loads that have come before him. There'll be loads that come after him. There's a reason we've never covered on this podcast. We've never covered KSI Logan Paul or Jake Paul against the fucking basketball player, or if Floyd Mayweather was to box Logan Paul, which I don't think he will. I don't think it's going to happen. We won't talk about it because, like you said, it's not. I don't think any of us are interested in it. I'm certainly not interested in that or anything.
And to be fair, the people that are interested in that have far better mediums to be able to enjoy that content than a boxing podcast.
Yeah, they do. They do indeed. Anyway, just before we wrap up, I thought, T, I'd just give you the opportunity, because I know he was one of your favourites. I just thought I'd give you the opportunity to talk about Marvin Hagler. We obviously spoke about him on episode 101, and Paul and Luke spoke about his career quite a lot, but I just thought I'd just give you the opportunity because I know he was like one of your favourites and one of your favourite fighters, and I feel bad about it now, but when I would send you money via bank transfer, I put on the comments, Hagler was a bum. And I feel bad about it now. because he obviously wasn't a bum. But that was just kind of the things we used to do to mess with each other. But how did you feel about Marvin Hagler passing away, and what did he mean to you watching boxing?
I think in this COVID era that when people pass away, it doesn't have the same impact as it would outside of the pandemic. Normally, I mean, I'm a little bit upset that he's passed away. 66 is no age, but the outpouring since he's died just shows that he fought the right way and his legacy is secure. Paul spoke about him, fighting in Philadelphia, which is like a tough place to go in the 70s. And everyone he fought, he beat except for Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard made as much in his pro debut as Hagler made that year. So there's so much resentment from there. And no, it's depressing. And, obviously you got the Tommy Hearns Instagram post saying there was a vaccine that caused it. And you got Paul Malignaggi on his whole anti-vax rubbish. And it's just, and even Hagler's own wife, a long-time partner, pretty much rubbish the rumors, but people are still going. It shows that the mad world we're in. But no, it's gutting. But yeah, I think I agree with the analysis that Hagler's probably at least top 3 middleweights of all time.
Yeah, special fighter, and it was the whole stuff about the vaccine was just a real shame, because whether it was true or not, and it wasn't, people were using it to forward an agenda. Malignaggi was one of those people that was guilty of that, and I thought he was really fucking out of order to do that. But thankfully, some people corrected him. So yeah, okay. Thanks for that, T. I appreciate that. Yeah, and thanks, chaps. Thanks for coming today.
Welcome,
thanks for joining me on Discord.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, let's hope it works.
Craig, fucking work, Craig. You cunt. All right, nice one, boys. I appreciate it.
Cool.
No worries, man.
See you soon, guys.
Take care.
See you later.
Bye.